topic for this discussion, table talk with me, is don't say the N-word. And the question that I have for you guys is, can the N-word be considered a hate speech, like a hate word? And should it be used? Even if it has like the N-I-G-G-A that people be saying nowadays, is that considered a hate speech?
And I'm going to help and rephrase so that we can make sure that, so, is the N-word, should we, in our high school hallways, ban the N-word from being used in either format with an ER or an A at the end of it because of the hatefulness within that word? Should we ban it from our hallways? In either form? Or where is your line?
It should be banned. I believe it should be banned. Nobody should name tag. And it's offensive to most. To others, it may not. But just because it's offensive to most, it should be considered.
Some people consider there to be a difference with the hard R or not. What's your perspective on that?
There's lots of words that we use in our vocabulary, and the tones, it depends on the tone you use, it depends how you pronounce it. I believe that just by avoiding the word, you get rid of the confusion.
And for me, I think that it should be banned because it just has hate behind it. And for us, like a fun fact for you guys that I read on Washington Post about the N-word is that it is used more often on Twitter than it is than the word bro and dude. So the N-word is used 500,000 times on Twitter, and the bro and dude is used 200,000 to 300,000 times respectively. And I'm like, what is respectively? Because we all know that the N-word is not respected. Because we all know where it came from originally. So it's like, why are we saying it? It's not respected.
Come in. So just as you spell the word, I will spell that word. And she said it without spelling it, and then she said, oh, it doesn't matter. And I was shocked to see, I looked at her and she said, it doesn't matter because we're not in South Africa. And I said, but the word is a racist word regardless of whether you say it in China or in South Africa. It still has those racist connotations. So it was very interesting that that came up last night. So I don't care where you are or what the situation is or who you are. I think the word has very, very negative connotations, both the N and the K word, and I don't think it should be used.
Do you guys think that there should be consequences when they use like words, hate speech, like hateful words like that? Like, because for me, when I walk the halls and I hear people saying the N-I-G-G-A, they don't really get in trouble. They're like, oh, watch your tone, or watch this and that. And not many of you guys know this, but last year when Trump actually became like inaugurated for the whole president thing, we had our AP test and the SAT practice test. I walked out of my classroom and I was walking towards Miss E's classroom, her mentor group, and all of a sudden I hear this group of freshman boys saying, we eat black people and we ditch and then they use N-I-G-G-E-R. I told Miss E, but they never got a real consequence for saying words like that involved actual violence off of my colored people, like my skin tone, towards like I don't know, it's just, they didn't really get in trouble, and I'm like, that's like a hate speech, that crosses the line from it, and they kind of did threaten, saying like they do that, and I'm like, they don't do anything, so should there be consequences on topics like that, on things like that?
So I think it should be, whether it's intentional or whether they should be, like, if they intended to hurt someone, then yes, but at the same time, like, they're not criminals, so you can't really, go after them or anything.
We're probably going to say so.
We're probably thinking the same thing. Is there about what you actually charge them?
Can you still win? My comment. So to follow up Milo,
I just said that.
I don't know, Xavier's comment, what do you think we should do for that?
Wait, it's specific to what?
Like, to saying it, like, not even relative to what
On
Milo
what?
said,
Because
but like,
what I was thinking, I'm sorry for interrupting, but there are different levels. On a federal level, we know that we have freedom of speech. Technically, people can say whatever they want, it don't matter how much they should or not. But on a school-wide level, there can be
yeah, I mentioned
regulation.
academics.
In an academic setting, there can be censorship. You can't have people running around saying they hate certain people and things like that. So, yes.
Yeah, so Milo, what do you think, how do you think we should handle that? Like, do
Okay.
you think there should be varying degrees to like what you heard versus just like colloquially addressing a friend, or like, how do you think we should do it?
Well, first off, to go back on the freedom of speech, like yes there is, but on other countries, they actually have freedom of speech as long as it's not crossing the line between hate speech and the regular freedom of speech. And the hate speech was to make sure you don't threaten a type of group, you don't make them fear you like they do. We learned about this in government, about like, you know, the whole Charlottesville, what happened. And so like, oh, should there still be freedom of speech? And so we learned from that there's actually, we do have it as long as it's not crossing the line between making that group fear you. And so what they were doing right there was violating the freedom of speech, because that was in making that person, me, fear them for my life, because I am considered a black person. And for me, I would rather have them get expelled, because I know that if somebody was to cuss or do something, they will get in trouble, but they don't really put that into actions because they're like, they don't really mean it, they're kids.
Do you think perhaps it's through ignorance?
I believe it is ignorance at the time, but I do believe that they know it's wrong, because we live in 2018, 2017, or 2016 actually, when it happened. And so you know that that's not right, you're not supposed to.
I actually know about a case recently in, I think, South Africa. So there was a case where a white woman was in Africa, and I forget what the word was. It wasn't the N word. It was like a more hateful word towards the African.
It's the K word. It's the
Yeah.
K word.
And she said it to the police in Africa, and she was put in jail for 3 years for that.
So about that, do you think that was a appropriate reaction under or over? What do you guys think?
I think it's appropriate just because those kind of words are really hateful and they are threatening, like whether they realize it or not, especially when you're using it towards those people. Like Milo and her family like probably feels really offended whenever they use those words towards them.
Is there anything, in the Constitution with regards to inciting riots?
It's freedom of speech is protected as long as you are not causing danger to, like the classic example is yelling fire in a movie theater when there is no fire. But in the case of hate speech, it's really difficult to say, oh, is this causing danger? Or is it just being like rude? So it's like, there's just such, it's so hard to qualify, to measure however that is.
So is it situational?
It's up to interpretation every single time.
Is the official, well, I mean, the last big decision was a while ago. It was late 60s. It was basically, if it's meant to and can prove or is likely to incite immediate action of an unlawful nature, that's what crosses the line for regular speech, or any type of speech.
But if you think about it, you also have the other amendments. Like for me, mine is the 14th Amendment, where I have the privilege to go to school. I could go to school to get my education, and I have the right to go feeling safe. And if I don't feel emotionally or physically or mentally safe, because there's people saying the N-word, especially threatening me and my kind, then that's violating my 14th. They're abridging my privilege. And so that right there is showing that they are violating our amendments. And the First Amendment, going back to this whole hate speech, there is a line. Constantly, I'm saying there is a line. So you are going across the amendments, no matter what. So that right there is unconstitutional, where you can get disciplined.
I would also have to say something about hate speech. I actually got into a huge debate with another student about this the other day. I just had like all lunch. So basically, like, how I interpret hate speech is that hate speech is not free speech. Hate speech is harassment towards other people that make them feel unsafe. And it's only like one kind of harassment. There are many different types, but hate speech is not free speech.
Like you said, it's open to interpretation, but I can say that I work in an environment where there's often people that are kind of going at each other, and the Palo Alto police are on site a lot. And I heard a officer recently tell the one person that she had used the N-word, and then in his perspective, and legally from his perspective, that's basically assault, and that the other person was going to be considered to be acting in self-defense.
Okay, so I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit into a segue of how crimes can be interpreted, how things can be interpreted in terms of what a person has done. And this is just kind of a question that I would love to bring up. It was a question I have here on this paper with lots of statistics, because I was really excited about this. So my question is, under California law, a juvenile may be tried as an adult as young as age 14. And I would like to ask you all your perspective on under what circumstances should a minor be tried as an adult?
Personally, I believe that under no circumstances should they be tried as an adult, because even just speaking scientifically, their brain has not fully developed yet, not from the age of I believe 23 to 25. So it's just there's no reason why someone that young should be tried as an adult. If they are given a life sentence, then I think it should be reconsidered once they become 18, because it's just unright to try someone as an adult when half the time they don't really understand the implications of their actions. And sometimes these kids are being forced into the situations that cause them to do these things, or to be arrested, and it's unfair to these children who are trying to help.
And I'd just like to bring up, personally, I recently turned 18. Do I feel like an adult? No, none of us do. And I'd like to just raise the question going on what Amanda said. The brain has been, we're looking at new studies, we're getting new research. The brain doesn't stop fully developing until 25. So at what age can someone be truly held accountable for their actions?
For me, I believe it depends on what type of crime they commit. Because we all know that minors in sociology, they tell us that the minors that are going to jail right now for like gang-related stuff, they're actually are kind of getting forced or manipulated into doing those actions by the adults, because they believe that they can have an easier sentence than they can. But if you say like the minor like sexually assaulted somebody, or like actually sexually abuse, well that's the same, but like harass, then they should go into into be tried as an adult, because that right there is your own choice. You chose to do those actions. So like my dad would say, you do the crime, you do your time. So you choose to get one pleasure out of that one person because you just want to have pleasure, or you force it upon somebody, then you should do the time, because that's your own choice.
Milo, I'd like to respectfully disagree with you. In California, so juveniles charged with murder and certain sex crimes, they must be tried in adult court. And of course, these are very serious crimes. These are not matters to be taken lightly. But it's my personal belief that adult actions do not make you an adult. And you are still, like, I'm not saying, oh, they're completely innocent. No, they did bad things. But they are still in the stages of their life where they don't know the consequences. Teenagers are especially bad at assessing situations and assessing outcomes. To adult prison, especially like what happens to 18-year-olds in adult prison, not good. I don't feel like that's the appropriate response towards them. They need help. If they're that young and they're committing such serious crimes, that's signs of problems with themselves, not a sign that they should be locked up for the rest of their life.
Well, I acknowledge that you were able to like do that, give us little statistics and like give us a little facts about it. But I believe that if say a 16-year-old or no, 17-year-old raped a 16-year-old or something, or they sexually hurt them in a way, but not raping, I believe that they should be tried as an adult and go to jail as an adult, but still have a chance to have parole to see if they will feel like if they change or something. Because it's not like, I know you're saying we make stupid decisions, we don't know the consequences of it, but we do know that our actions that we're about to do, we do know that it's going to be wrong, but we just don't think ahead. And I can see where you're coming from, but I still believe that's an adult type of thing, because adults right now, they're not the people that be sexually assaulting people and hurting them. They get out versus a lot earlier than people that be selling drugs, and that's messed up. I'm like, but
can I jump in? So for the last 12 and a half years, I've been running the public defender's office in San Mateo County. San Mateo County does not have a public defender. It's called the Private Defenders Program, and it's operated through the San Mateo County Bar. And we've had, in the last 12 and a half years, at least 2 children that I know of that have been tried as adults for heinous crimes. And when I first started working there, I believed in the death penalty. I don't now, because I see how unfair it is in our system in California. There are children who commit crimes that you couldn't even think of. And basically, I see about 20,000 crimes a year come through my office where people need defense. And some of the crimes are really horrific. And even if the children who commit those crimes, their brains aren't formed enough to make the decision, they made the decision to commit the crime, and they don't need to be in the same population with children like you in this room. And so I'm not for them spending the rest of their life in prison, but there is some type of consequence that really needs to be had. And the way it really works in real life is they're sitting in county jail for a really long time waiting for their trial, sometimes 4 to 5 years. So by the time they do get to trial, they're not 14 anymore.
And do you think this is just like
and the jury doesn't see a 14-year-old sitting there.
Right, that's my question. Do you think that impacts the...
I think it does impact
they're not seen as a child.
That's correct. And I would give them the opportunity for parole with some of the crimes that I have seen, at least when they get 25 and they are able to make sound decisions. But that would also be based on how they have behaved in prison.
Completely, actions should have consequences, but it's like, the U.S. has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. Just like the sentencing, like what Milo brought up, like just like barely scraping the surface on the war on drugs. It's just like, there's a huge problem in our society just in terms of our tendency to lock up first, ask questions later. And I feel like that is a huge issue in society right now.
I also, since this is my egg in a play, I also wonder, I think about, you know, as a parent, yeah, absolutely. We talk about this sometimes with like, I do not want, if some kid is going to have a stolen car and driving 100 miles down our residential block, I have my 5-year-old out there, any of you all can be out there, it is not okay. That is reckless endangerment with something that could kill people. There needs to be consequences for that. And at the same time, I also know that there's this weird fascination with cars and speed at your age, right? So some of this, like, it makes sense the tools picked, right? And the behavior. And those I find different than exactly what you were saying. You know, like we talk about like the type of murders and heinous crimes that are going on. my concern is I want everyone to be able to see, I've been reading some of the science on this, that when people look at African American boys, they don't see a child.
No.
And that already on its face, they don't see an 8-year-old. So my concern is we aren't even looking kids in an equitable child type of way, right? Like what one person we see a child, the other one we're saying at 7 you're a grown man.
Or someone scary.
Yeah. That's it, or demonized, exactly, correct. And so I wonder if when we think about, like, we know it's disproportionate, and I wonder if this is really about how do we look at our children? What is a child? What is childhood? What is it looking in other places, right? So I just wanted to put that out there also as another thought to that.
But I just want to say that, it's also, children are prejudiced. They don't grow up. It's their surrounding. It's their parents, their families, and their culture, and how they grow up, right? So they're making a choice. Parents are making a choice when they raise their kids to be open and inclusive, or if they're saying, the N-word or the K-word or whatever it is. So I think this area, I know at least for our son Connor, he's grown up and we have actively made sure he goes to very diverse schools, so he learns many, many cultures, and he'll learn to respect those and understand them so that he will make better choices, and he'll be able to empathize and understand what other people kind of walk in someone else's shoes. But kids aren't born hating other people for the color of their skin or whatever. They're raised that way. And that's what needs to change. Right?
Well, what if they don't have parents?
Pardon?
What if they don't have parents?
Well, I think you have your culture. You still are going to be raised in some environment by someone. You're getting those cues and you're getting that from somebody somehow, right? And I think that I think that's where it comes in. That's where you need to have better, of course, education and understanding, and I think those types of things, that's all we can do is keep learning and trying to better ourselves and understand so we can make it better for everybody.
Let me take a quick time out really quickly to say, one, just so you know, and my students always hate this, right, we're at time. I am more than happy to, so I just wanted to make sure that people knew that, make sure that we were able to hear the points. Also, I now have a jacket. Goodbye, I love you. Okay, be good. All right.
I wanted to say, which is a very good point, I think about exposure and teaching conversations. But there's studies that show that as early as 9 months old, babies are starting to recognize bias, just in response through eye scan and responses. They even start young, and I think we have this strange fascination with punishment, incarceration, but we don't seem to think about what's behind the behavior. Even as with the conversation around the N-word, yes, I definitely disagree that there should be consequences around it, but I worry about the word censorship and trying to hold back or trying to keep behind closed doors. Use of this language when we don't say things out loud, there's not an opportunity to confront it and address it, and those moments are the ones that people learn through. And I think we all carry some type of bias, but we learn through conversation, and conversations about race we're really not comfortable talking about, and we tend to point and shame and blame, but unless it gets out there, we can't have these dialogues. So I think, yes, there should be consequences about it, but also an opportunity to learn, talk about it, and express why are we using this word, why did we switch the word, which is a very hateful word, and reframe it to try to make it something cool or popular,
whose is it? That's why we asked. Exactly. Well, it's not, I know for sure, it's not until that word, I agree with whoever said, as long as that word is used disrespectfully, I don't think it's ever going to be used responsibly in any possible way. So, because of that, and because I know how it feels, I feel very, strongly about that. And we're competing with the, celebrities. That's what we compete with as parents, right? Because they're watching it and thinking they're seeing celebrities that word doesn't belong to them either. And they have they use it frequently, and I wonder about that piece. But I know that wasn't like but I just wanted to put that out there. Like, there's the pop culture piece, but then there's the other piece too where I worry about. I would love to trust parents enough to teach their children in an unbiased way. What I do know is that when I travel to other places, although it happens to me frequently also, I deal with anti-Semitism on a regular daily basis. And no, I don't think that kids are born even knowing what anti-Semitism would begin to be. It's either from friend group, for things they're doing online, and I think that it's important that we continue to talk to our youth about what they are doing online.
I kind of want to go back to something that Milo said earlier, just because like it reminded me of something that I was talking to Milo and Kayla about the other day. So like with like the whole like sexual assault stuff, I think that there has to be like a higher punishment than just like juvenile detention, but not as much as an adult sentence, because there was a video going around of like a guy saying like there's no difference between yes and no. And then this girl went up and then said like, oh, so like, can I punch you? And then he said no, and then she punched him and was like, okay, so what? There's no difference. But like, it kind of goes back to that. Like, if when somebody says no, like you have to like listen to that. Like, if you're 13, like you know what no means, and like you're just doing that to be disrespectful and hurt that person. So there has to be like a good enough consequence to help them understand that like no means no. It does not mean yes in any way.
There has to be some in between,
like middle
a
ground.
life sentence and just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. Exactly.
I also thought it was interesting just to add, and I would do this to my students anyway as I'm doing this, just to add narrative. I wonder, it's too bad that we do talk about the N-word in a type of way where we're, like it is an assault. It's a word that is like, it means really, it's an assault. It really is. I do agree with that. The way that I know that when I get called names that like are death to it just represents death to the beautiful images that you saw of those old ladies up there. So great. This happens all the time. Everyone stay calm.
You got this, Teely.
Assault, verbal assault.
Totally.
It can only get worse.
Thank you. You got it. Thank you. Okay. I wish that one day, especially as a female, that the word bitch would be considered an assault. When used in the way that it's used. If you were going to say to me, oh, but this is a female dog, please, okay? We know when people are using it in those ways, and that's not how it gets used. And I wonder why that's so far off from ever being a word that would be forbidden in our, or hoe, or whore, or slut, the things I hear out here. I wish those would be an assault. Like that word would be considered in that. So as much as like that is, it incites violence. It is hate speech.
Just to go back to the point that you were talking about how like children are raised a certain way and they that the way they are raised determines their actions in the future. And I just wanted to ask, what steps do you think we should be taking as educators for these children to help them stay out of this system, to stay out of the school to prison pipeline? What do you think we should be doing to stop this?
Well, I think it's a lot about not criminalizing their behavior and also like treating them equitably. We were reading about things where one student will walk out of a classroom, typically like a majority race, like white student, and they'll call it like letting off steam. And then maybe a minority race will do the same thing, and they'll consider that an act of violence or aggression, and then they get suspended, then they're at home, no one around, low self-esteem maybe now, school doesn't even want them at school, right? And who's going to be accepting of them? Maybe gangs, stuff like that, and then that sends you right into the prison system and such. And I think that's really like, school needs to be more accepting of people and look at it from the student's point of view, not just from the easy way out of you're a bad kid, you're suspended.
I definitely agree with that because I think a lot of times when students act up, they're like instantly seen by their teachers as disrespectful, and they don't really focus so much on helping them and on changing them. They just focus on getting them out of their classroom and not really taking the steps to try and change it. And that's just adding to the problem of children, or the increasing prison population size for children.
San Mateo High School had almost the highest expulsion rate in the nation. And they have recently turned that around by creating some peer mediation and steps before, in fact, they avoid expulsion now. Because they figured out that it was wrong and it was not helping the students in San Mateo County.
As a parent, I am glad this conversation is coming up. Because I've heard stories that happen here.
Yeah.
I love the school.
Oh, we can talk about it. This is
I've
our
heard
meeting. Here we go.
You know, situations, just like he expressed. If it's, I don't like to classify, but if it's a white student that walks out, oh, he needs air. If it's Hispanic, he's disrespectful. And if it's African American, he gets suspended because that was totally out of the. I think it's a tough world we live in, and we, our parents, we're beyond 40 years old. We depend on you guys to see what is wrong. What have we been doing wrong? I always have said that what's going on in the teens generation now is our fault because we didn't live that, because our parents raised us differently. We are raising our children, giving them what I didn't have, the opportunity I didn't have. You have what I didn't. And I guess we're giving them too much freedom. I don't know what went wrong.
Yeah.
The thing is that the generation that we lived when we were teens, we didn't face a quarter of what these teenagers are doing now. At 12 years old, my skin just goes crazy when I see what a 12-year-old is capable of doing. And when I was 12, I didn't even raise my voice. My teacher I would fear my teacher more than my mom.
Yes, or your parents. More than a cop, right?
More.
You're like,
I agree.
I would never speak back to anybody.
I completely agree with you. There are there are times where you have students completely curse out at teachers.
And here.
Yeah.
And I've heard the story, and it's like, wow, so immediately I hear the story, and I look at my girls, like, you know better.
Yeah.
Right? We remember those times where we used to brag about, my mom would just look at me and I shut up.
Yeah.
Our teachers, our parents empowered our teachers. You have every right. And these kids are lucky. We used to put our hand out and get hit with a ruler.
Yeah. I try and tell them that.
Now you go to jail. Now the teacher goes to jail for just yelling or raising their voice on the student. Yeah. So unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are wrong, and just like it has been mentioned here, I've heard it. We are doing the same thing that our legal system is doing. If they did a crime, we're going to punish them. Here in school, I think the attitude should be, if a kid used the N-word, yes, they need to be approached. Someone needs to sit with them. I don't know if it's
hallway probation. Yeah, I know that.
Let's make patrol among the students.
I've been working on that.
Let's have a conversation with that child. Let's see, why is he bringing that up? Just like you said, it's their surroundings. They may not have parents, but someone is leading.
Right. Yes.
Right? There's someone around. It's either a friend, a neighbor, the teacher. Our teachers should not fear our children. That is ridiculous. That does not make sense. And I think that everything it's in conjunction. We as parents do what we have to do at home. But when my child is here, I expect Miss Teely, when she sees Kayla out of line, to call her out. Yeah. Because I am not here, and I'm not going to be here 24/7. But if you're around, you're the adult, and you're the responsible one for Kayla's actions while she's here. So you should have the right to call her out.
But also, teachers need to know that they're empowered to do that by the parents. And that's the problem. It used to be like you said when we went to school, and not, well, I'm going to go talk to the teacher because you can't possibly have done that. It's, well, the teacher probably had a reason for doing it,
There was no
and you have to
discussion.
suffer this consequence. there's no undermining the authority figure. So you have got, the authority figures no longer exist for a lot of kids today, right? They can walk over anybody anytime and there's no respect. And so I think, of course, that's a lot of it. And again, that's learned behavior. Somebody's letting that, parents, guardians, people raising, whatever it is, the groups, exactly.
We need to work as a team.
It takes a village.
I definitely agree with a respect for authority, but I also think that sometimes, even as adults, we say and do things that are unjust and unfair and have our own biases, implicit biases, or sometimes even explicit biases. And I do encourage my daughter to even speak up.
Thank you all so much for coming tonight.
Because there has been teachers or things that they said or done for a friend or questioned a friend about something, but they didn't question her, and it was obvious that it was a bias. And I tell her, you should, say something, bring it up, bring it to their attention, even though there's that level. You can do it in a respectful way. But I think it is a community of learning back and forth between adults and children. Because again, I think it's that's how we grow, and we grow as a society. I think we all have said stupid things. But until we kind of get checked about it, that's when we make a change and we think, that was stupid. Or why that was stupid, it doesn't make sense. So, and make a conscious decision going forward.
I would like to add on.
Okay, go. Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's really hard to raise somebody unbiased, because even if you try to keep a clean mind or a safe mind, it's really hard because of so much peer pressure and the influence of the media and your parents. But also, I just wanted to say, going back to how you can fear your teachers and your parents, it is easier now for children to be in an authority figure position. I know because I am a referee for soccer, and if I miss a call, if I miss something happening, I can just make up whatever I want, and people will believe me because I am in a position of power. And I feel like it's dangerous to let someone as young as 8 manage to rise so far and so high when they don't have the cognitive brain skill. At 25, your brain is fully developed, but why do we allow people to drink at 21 or send young children to adult prison when they're 18?
Or vote.
Or vote. Or join the army.
Because you know what happens?
That's exactly what I feel. It's I think it's you guys are the ones that need to take the role to change this. You are seeing it, you are living it. We are here we can only be support for you guys. And I'm glad to hear you expressing that. Yes, maybe they shouldn't be tried as an adult, but this is what needs to change. Maybe the rules need to change. But if, like she said, there's horrible crimes being committed because there's no severe consequence to it. But then when we put a child in a jail, we're just disposing of a life. We're not doing anything. And when they built jails, I didn't even think that was the idea. The idea was to put them, isolate them from society. Let's teach them something. Let's rehabilitate them. What happened with those things we see in the movies? Oh, he went to jail and he came out an attorney. They don't study anymore. He came out an attorney. He was able to do a profession, some technical career. It's in you guys' hand. You are the new generation. And we hope that when I'm 80, hopefully, if I'm alive,
you are 80.
I can see that change, and it's all in your hands. You could put this, write it down, follow Ms. Teeley's ideals, and hey, write a letter to the government. We are being ruled by rules that were made in the 1100, when was it? 900 before Christ or something, when the woman had no value. So that constitution doesn't even apply to me because I was non-existent. So these are the things that need to change, and it's all in your young hands.
Dave, have a comment? Or are we done?
I already asked you if I could.
You may, yes.
Okay.
Did you want to say something?
Do you want to go first?
Oh yeah.
It's like what the parents have been saying, like it really resonates, but also it's hitting a nerve. Like kids or like teenagers aren't seen as like proper adults, or they've been taking, or more referring to the side in school, like teachers are afraid of students. It's more like the situations that been happening, like Parkland, like Columbine. You've taken away, you haven't given us like you've taken away like privileges, like in Parkland now you have to take a clear backpack, certain kinds of stuff, like the trench coat mafia, like those are the kinds of stuff, like if you're not gonna respect us and you're not gonna dive in deep and see what's really happening, why do we even have to respect you?
Yeah, with going on what Louise said, there's a huge kind of like void in terms of how adults know how to treat teenagers. Like, we're different. You're different from us, we're different from you. You were us in the past, we're eventually going to turn into you. So the point of it, there's almost like this double standard, because you expect us to know exactly what you're doing. You're supposed to choose your major when you're in high school. You're supposed to choose the path that you're supposed to go down. You're supposed to be ready to vote at 18. You have to ready to vote at 18. That's awesome. But at the same time, teenagers' opinions, when you look at like the survivors of the Parkland shooting time and time again through the media, their opinions are just like stomped in the trash. They're just teenagers. They don't know what they're talking about. I know what I'm saying. I'm quite aware of the words that are coming out of my mouth. And if you think otherwise, then boy, you have a surprise coming for you. Like, just in general, I'm sorry, I'm ranting, but
Yeah, that was so good. I rant. That was a rant. That was good.
it's just people don't know how to treat teenagers, and that really comes into play. Back full circle, back to the justice system. When a teenager commits a crime, people don't know what to do.
Homeland Security, let's hear it.
Okay, I was a correction officer for a long time, and I know how the jails work. And that happens in school, the situation like that, bad behaviors and things like that on the street, the teenagers, the adults and stuff like that, because we have to change the justice system. The people believe the jail is a really bad thing, but the people doesn't know they are better in jail than outside for so many reasons. And they know, minors know, when they go to the jail, when they are less than 18 years old, after 18 everything is sealed and start the life again. Okay, everything sealed when you commit a crime before 18 years old. And the other thing is, the people believe in jail, you in behind bars. You're not behind bars. The bars open at 6 a.m. and close at 6 p.m. Everybody's out playing basketball, eating and all this stuff. They betters out there. And counts the system, you got 10 years for, oh my God, this is a lot of years on jail, but basically this is 3 years. Because they got count days and night, like 2 days. And when you got good behavior inside, is less than the sentence. And when you work inside the jail, because it's a federal program in the jail, you can work in the jail, and the 10 years is reduced like 2 or 3 years. And if you got parole or something like that, you go out. That's why they knows that. That's why when they come to the school, they hit the teacher, and I don't care, go to the jail, because they know the system. That's what happens in the jail. And for adult, it's the same thing. The key of this stuff is change the justice system.
If you're tried as an adult, is your record still expunged at 18, or it stays open? So that, I think, is that, where's that rehabilitation to allow, it's still a child. And I think thinking about the cause behind behavior, And that rehabilitation, if we try them as an adult, we're not giving them that chance to correct the behavior of the child. Because at the end of the day, they're still a child. And no matter the heinous crimes, yes, there are, but what was the cause behind it? You know, abuse or whatever. Perhaps, maybe it's not rehabilitation back into society, but maybe it's rehabilitation into a different, so they can still have a life, a quality of life, instead of throwing away life.
This is one of the big problems. This is one of the big problems the justice system has, and it's no rehabilitation inside the jail. Everybody's going together. Okay, if you got a charge for drug, and if you got a charge for kill somebody, everybody's going together. If you got a DUI and go to the jail, everybody's going together. It's no rehabilitation way for minors or for drugs. No classifications out there. Everybody's going together, but when you got out more
messed up.
More messed up than
exactly.
the first
We
time.
have this like weird idea around the punishment. Punishing, and then it ends up just creating a bigger problem, because when they do get out, they've been exposed to much more or committed crimes inside that adds on to their sentence, or builds upon them, and they've already wasted.
I know a case, one minor going for 6 months in jail, but when I get off from the jail, he got a 500 years in jail.
Right.
He goes for 6 months, and he ends with 500. Die in jail. Because he got a crime.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's a good point, because, so, I was thinking like that, you came up with the point, you said rehabilitation a couple times. So, I think that this justice system is I think this is telling of how the justice system is not really justice, because you're putting a teen in prison for life. So when are they supposed to rehabilitate? Like, I think that all falls down back to what we were talking about as like, you guys as parents and us as a society, like what responsibilities do we have to those juveniles? Like, they commit the crime, but it's like the more heinous the crime, I think the more help that they need. Because I think this room is proof that teens are totally able or functional and able to make their own decisions, but also in the eyes of the law, that's not how it works. Because let's say somebody, like statutory rape is an example, and a 17-year-old doesn't have the cognitive skills to be with an adult, but if they murder someone, they do. So it's just mixed signals that they're sending.
Or to die for your country.
Exactly. So if you send them to prison, you're not really helping them at all. And you just said someone, a teen, right, went to jail for 6 months, ends up with a 500-year sentence. Imagine the trauma that causes that teen. You go in for 6 months and then you stay for the rest of your life. Like, it takes 24 hours, I think, to lose like your psyche. You go crazy after 24 hours in solitary confinement. So
less than
24 hours. So putting someone in that position, a teen in that position, is like absolutely, like, it's horrendous. I don't think it should even exist. You're supposed to rehabilitate them. That's our responsibility as a society. And I'm sorry.
And I think that's what your father was saying, that jails were originally built for rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're built for profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I agree with that.
Yes.
Okay, so apparently, as you all know, I will continue until we end. That's what I think that is just so much fun. And the fact that we're sitting in here and what we are talking about is really amazing. So I'm sorry that this needs to close down for now. I just want to say thank you for my students in here. You can see, and some of them did have to leave early, you can see what amazing, this is what we're putting out into the world as the next generation of leaders. And I am thrilled and honored to hear what they have to say and how they say it with such respect and dignity and passion and love. It's a joy for me. It's kind of surreal going through this right now because, it's weird to end in April, but then also like to, not be back on this round next year. And so just a strange place. And so I feel like for my juniors that are here, I mean, obviously there's huge commitment here. For the juniors to be in the room is huge commitment. So, and my seniors, so I will see you, juniors, I will see you at prom. I will see you at graduation. I don't know how to get through graduation, and I know there'll be other people who don't know how to get through it either. So I'm looking forward to getting all teary-eyed with the parents to see what amazing young people your children have grown up to be. It is truly an honor to work with them, and I love them with all of my heart. All of them. Okay, I hope you guys have a lovely evening.